Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are actually going to be going over some of the things that we brought up last week. Now you guys may remember last week I made a video and the video was simply called The Biggest Problem with World of Warships Legends. And I knew that this video was going to be one that kind of got some views, got some people talking. And what I wasn't expecting was there to be multiple other people making videos based on that video. And that not only did you guys watch the video, but a lot of you responded to the video. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to go over some of the things that were brought up in rebuttal to my suggestion, as well as some of the suggestions you guys made in the comments below. So, with that being said, we're going to have some generic Alaska gameplay going on in the background, some good old-fashioned Alaska for you guys. But the first things first, we had a rebuttal video, and it was from none other than my friend, the Hivehound. And in that video, basically, he agreed with everything I said, except about the auto-aim. He thinks that if auto-aim was toned down or removed altogether, that it would make the game even harder for those people who are not as good at the game. And while that would be true, I still stand by what I said when I say that the auto-aim is a little bit too spicy. And I know it's not perfect. For the love of God, if something is moving and you use auto-aim to track it, it's never going to track directly the way it's supposed to. That would be even worse. But it is close enough that you can easily adjust within milliseconds after locking onto a target and adjust the shot and put the shot on the money, allowing for those really ridiculous snapshots at the beginning of the match that I think separate PC from Legends. Now, I will say this. A lot of people brought up the fact that they prefer Legends over PC, and I'm right there with you. I love Legends compared to PC. I like that it's a faster paced game. I like the fact that it doesn't take 10 minutes to get into your first engagement because you spawn 80 kilometers away. My suggestion was simple. I'm trying to help make the games a little bit longer, a little bit more competitive by keeping the potatoes alive a little bit longer. I think that one of the biggest issues in the game currently with all of the raffle stomps that we have is that opening 3 minutes. First of all, the crazy part is half the time you have multiple destroyers in the game, right? And you're either going to get the destroyer that doesn't spawn in because he's AFK for whatever reason or whatever. But one team ends up with a huge advantage in spotting right out the gate. Okay? And the team that does that usually ends up getting a massive hit right out the gate, whether it be because people are always going to be trying to make a turn, whether it be people running from their side, which I have always said is a bad idea, or people in general just trying to like not think about what they're giving up to try to make a turn to go somewhere. Or they'll just turn broadside and stay broadside, heading in the direction that they're trying to get to, rather than turning and continuing that turn to get angled away from the threat that will be coming. I think most players at higher tiers understand that you are going to be spotted seconds into the match more often than not, especially battleship mains. We know we're going to get spotted early. Now, most of us have adopted using the concealment mods to give our battleships a little bit more of a break that gives us that extra little bit of time to get turned away before the inevitable volleys of shells come flying our direction. And a lot of times this will actually give you the drop on the enemy because you don't get spotted until they get spotted, right? Because if you're not running concealment mod on a battleship in 2024, you are doing it wrong. I'm sorry. There is no excuse for running RGA mod on any battleship in 2024. Period.
I need help.
You can fight me. I don't care. Anyway. But Spartan, what about Schlieffen? Schlieffen has sonar. But Spartan, what about all the not Russians, the Italians? Stop it. You're pulling at straws. There's no reason for RGA in 2024, period. Anyway, now, back to what I was talking about in my video. The auto-aim in Legends is a bit too cracked. I think there needs to be a grace period at the beginning of the match that does not allow auto-aim to start until a certain time. And I think that would do enough to at least give the average player a chance. I'm not talking about Hivehound and Tommy Boy and Spartan Elite and A-Ron and T-Bull. Well, T-Bull's not in it anymore. Zarkoon and all Tactic and Hipper and all these people that have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of games under their belt that make content for the game. We are not the average player. Even I, a gigantic potato, who is the most aggressive person on the planet, is still better than average, all right? I've always said that I'm just above average. That's it. I'm not an amazing player, never claimed to be, but I'm above average. What does that mean? There is a huge skill gap between being above average, which I think I am, and the average player. The average player is what you see at the beginning of the match, who immediately goes broadside, goes straight forward, gets spotted, gets removed seconds into the match. They don't understand what they're doing wrong to get themselves into that position, right? So, getting those guys a chance to survive a little bit longer, I think, is a necessity. I know that the developers have met their goal of speeding along World of Warships Legends. That was their whole goal from the get-go, was to increase the speed of the game for console. Whether it be the condensed tech trees, whether it be all of the things. They've streamlined it a lot on console. Now, some of those changes have completely screwed up World of Warships Legends compared to PC, and a lot of that is the tech tree. Like, they started with an idea of what they wanted to do with the tech tree, and then they've adjusted based on feedback from the community that we wanted certain ships in the game, and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, the tech tree's a mess, and we all know it. Right? Our tier system is a mess. Alright, but that's a tale for another time. I still don't think that's the worst thing in Legends. I still think that the Raffle Stomps are the worst thing in Legends. Nobody enjoys it. Some things that you can adjust in the game to make those Raffle Stomps less happen or occur less often is, like I suggested, simple. Move the spawns back a little bit. Now, I suggested 5 kilometers. A lot of y'all were like, "Oh, 5 kilometers too much." I disagree, but, 3 kilometers would make a huge difference in this game. Because if you think about it, 3 kilometers, that's still going to give you a significant change in the opening, starts of the match. That's going to give these guys a little bit longer before they get spotted and inevitably shot, okay? What that'll allow is that they maybe make that turn and get to a position where they can be a little bit more useful for their team despite having a lower skill, right? Like, this is the goal. We want competitive-ish games. Now, that brings me to my next point. There was a lot of people in the comments that were bringing up skill-based matchmaking. Now, I'm sorry, but having come from a background of skill-based matchmaking and seen how it's ruined many, many, many multiplayer games, such as Call of Duty, I beg to disagree with skill-based matchmaking. Nobody, except like the ultra super try-hard chads out there, the giga chads in the chat, nobody enjoys skill-based matchmaking. It is awful, because despite how good you may get at the game, alright? If you are constantly surrounded and against people that are of a similar skill level than you, you have to play like an absolute giga chad every single time you are in the game. And sometimes we just don't want to do that, right? Sometimes you just want to have a meme game where you just go out and do something stupid and see what happens. Like, we all get that, right? We all have that. That's the whole point of video games, right? We all have those things where sometimes you just want to have fun. You can't really do that in a skill-based matchmaking system because it is, at the end of the day, you are surrounded by those people that are of a similar skill cap to you. So, from that, I would say skill-based matchmaking is not the ideal. Now, okay, we've gotten through that. Now, Tommy Boy also brought up the fact that he kind of agrees with the whole Raffle Stomp thing, and he also disagrees with skill-based matchmaking, and he made some good points too. I highly recommend. I'm gonna link both of their videos down in the comments below, or down in the description for you guys to check out, so you guys can see their point of view, what they were saying about it as well. Because both Tommy Boy and Hivehound made a video in response to my video, okay? But I think by moving the spawns back a little bit, that kind of gives us a little bit more of a grace period for those lower skilled players to get their guaranteed turns off before they get yeeted. I don't want a situation like we have on PC where you log in, you're 40 kilometers away from everybody. It takes you 5 minutes to get into your first engagement. Nobody wants that, right? That's boring. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys that. That part of the reason we are on Legends is because of the faster paced gameplay, right? But at the end of the day, faster paced gameplay is one thing. Having every single match end 9-1 in like 6 minutes to 10 minutes is rough, all right? Now, I know a lot of you guys were mentioning that you work certain hours or whatever, so being able to jump in and have an 8-minute game is kind of nice, or you have kids that you're watching or whatever, you know, family and that sort of thing. And I get that, I really do. But I'm just talking about from a, you know, just in general. Which games do you enjoy the most in World of Warships Legends? Is it the ones that are just over in 5 to 8 minutes? Because those aren't very enjoyable to me personally. I prefer the games that are 12 to 15 minutes. 15 minutes is less than they have on PC, and we also have 9 versus 12, okay? Right? It's 9 on console, 12 on PC. There's a big difference there. So that already speeds everything up. You don't need to have the spawns directly on top of one another to add another layer of just getting yeeted off the map as soon as you spawn in. We've seen the developers paying attention to this in the past by incorporating the concealment mods on battleships and so on and so forth. So they do listen to feedback, which brings me to my next point, which is a lot of folks in the chat seem to think that wargaming, and specifically our development team, does not care about feedback. And I think that that is absolutely wrong. We have demonstrated multiple times throughout the years. I mean, the game's been out for 5 years now, going on 5 years for those of you who weren't in the beta test, or the alpha and beta. But going on 5 years, the game has been out, fully released. And over that time period, the developers have constantly changed their outlook on the game based on feedback from the community. So saying that they just flat out don't listen to the community is completely wrong. And so I think you guys need to check yourselves on saying that, because the proof is in the pudding. Like, they've done it, all right? But here's the bigger threat. Here's the bigger thing that I think that a lot of you guys overlook. And all you have to do, you guys want a sample of what the developers see on a day-to-day basis? Go to my video, my original video that I asked you guys for your responses, and just go through the comments. There's almost 300 comments on that video. And every one of them is vastly different, with different levels of being toxic or just outright, like, not helpful in one way, and then people actually offering constructive criticism. Like, we have the full range in those 300 comments, right? So you get a nice sample size of what to see when the developers are asking for feedback. You want another example of what the developers see? Go check out the World of Warships Legends Discord server and check out their feedback section. Okay? Just read through it. You wanna smile, you wanna put a chuckle on, and you wanna just slap your forehead and go, why? Why do you people say things like this? Just check it out. You think I'm joking. So you can understand why sometimes the things that the community needs the most don't necessarily end up getting the most attention, because there is so much other stuff getting thrown out there that they have to filter through. Now, that being said, it is their job to filter through all of the extra stuff and make changes to their game that are for the better of the game, right? Otherwise, they end up losing their community, we end up losing a game we all love, and nobody's happy, right? Now, with all of that being said, there is some actual good things that I saw in the comments section that I wanted to talk about as well. And a lot of people are saying one of the biggest problems that they have as a newer player to the game is the economy in the game. And they're not wrong. The economy in World of Warships Legends is brutal, man, especially as you get up to tier 7 and above. Now, a lot of us have been playing for a long time, so we kind of, we know what we're doing. We have the commanders, like, we have all the stuff. We constantly have premium time. We have all the things, but you forget just how brutal this game really is when you first start out. when you don't have all the commanders maxed out and you don't have premium time, so you're constantly having to sit there with no ships, like you have no credits. Imagine trying to get a tier 8 just starting out. Tier 7 was a rough grind when you first started. My first tier 7 was USS Iowa, way back in the day. I know. Shocker. The whole world just exploded with that amount of, not irony, what's the word I'm thinking of? I don't know. Captain Obvious, I guess, would be the best. But my first ship was the USS Iowa, first tier 7, right? Alright? Tier 7s are incredibly expensive. Playing tier 7s is incredibly expensive. They've made it cheaper over time, but it's still a hellacious grind for new players. Which is why I always recommend that newer players stick from starting the game out to tier 5 in every class in every nation. This will do two things. One, it gives you ample experience in multiple classes in multiple nations. What does this mean? This means that you're going to have a better chance to know what you're up against in any given situation. No matter what the ship is that you're up against, you've probably played in that ship at that point, so you know what to expect out of it. You know what they're trying to force you to do to get the best advantage for themselves. So you can use that to your advantage. Knowledge is power. This game in its like most basic form is simple. There's a lot of nuance out there that makes this game more complex, just like there is with pretty much any game. But World of Warships is one of those games where it, on its surface, is very simple. In reality, the nuance is what everybody screws up. And you see it time and time and time again. And nobody is immune from it. We all make the same mistakes. Some of us just make them more than others. Okay? But the thing that we can't really do, and I see a lot of people saying, hey, we should have tutorials in the game. I think that ship has sailed a long time ago. You gotta have the puns, right? You gotta have it. But I think the tutorial system should have been in the game from the get-go. Like, I don't understand why they don't have it. Like, they have the most basic tutorial on the planet. It's like, hey, you can go this, press this button to go forward, press this button to go back. You can steer left, you can steer right, you can pull the trigger, you can aim down sights, and good luck, Commander. That's basically the tutorial that we have in the game. Now, I know from a developing standpoint, and from a content creation standpoint, having created many tutorials through the years, that, early on was the best timing for tutorials. Tutorials nowadays just don't seem to get as many views. Why is that? Because most people know what the basics of the game are. They're not looking for tutorials, right? New players may jump in, but how many new players are coming in looking for tutorials, right? They're just not. They want to get in, they want to play the game, and they just jump on it and start playing. They inevitably throw themselves into the shark-infested waters of multiplayer before they're ready because they play a couple of rounds of AI and they're like, oh my god, I am the greatest player on the planet because all of these AI just sail straight at me and I can easily get better positioning. I think that AI needs to be better, first of all. They need to have more than just sail straight in their repertoire, okay? Because what happens is you get a bunch of people coming in from AI battles thinking that they are going to be able to do what they do in AI, and inevitably they get shown real quick that that does not work, okay? We are much more dynamic. And people are creatures of habit, but we are still way more dynamic than any AI that currently exists, okay? And that's not even taking into consideration the potatoes. So I've said it over and over again. The hardest thing to predict in this game is a bad player. I can predict some of the greatest players on the planet, right? And I am not one of them, right? But I'm good enough to recognize patterns in what people tend to do, tendencies and stuff when they're trying to dodge. I can anticipate what I think they're likely to do. A bad player, it's almost impossible to predict them. Because they don't do what you expect them to do. They're constantly doing things that you're just like, why? Why would you, as a above average player, you're looking at it going, why would you make that play? A perfect example is when you're in a destroyer and you're launching torpedoes and you're like, I know I should anticipate this guy slowing down, turning in to go around this island, and he just sails in a straight line and you're like, I should have just launched at the white line. What am I thinking? How dare I think that somebody's actually going to pay attention? But again, I'm getting sidetracked, but this is what I'm talking about. But there are things like the economy that I do think still need adjustments. I don't think it's very, very fun for new players to join in and then have to like grind from day one, and like they're seeing everybody in these legendary ships and tier 8s, and they're like, I don't understand how anybody has gotten through the ranks at this point, despite the fact that most of us have been doing it for 4 years. Some of us haven't been doing it that long, but still, you get what I'm saying. But the other side of it is that user feedback and community feedback is being listened to. But you got to understand that we have a pretty small development team for World of Warships Legends. We are not World of Warships PC. We are not World of Tanks PC. We have small development teams because we have a small community. Wargaming is a multi-billion-dollar company as a whole. They do not make their own games anymore. They're basically, they are a IP owner. If you don't know what an IP is an intellectual property. They own the intellectual property of World of Warships, World of Tanks, World of Warplanes, so on and so forth. Anyway, they then hire smaller development teams to work on their intellectual properties standalone, right? Now, they may have some bonuses of being able to work with certain groups, like special art teams or whatever. That's different. I'm just saying in general, we have a small development team. We have a small community, okay? And to sort through all of the wish-wash to get to what the community actually needs and actually wants is the hardest thing for the developers to do. And when you deal with constantly getting berated for everything, and let's be honest, we all do it. Hey, none of us can sit here today and be like, I've never said anything negative about wargaming. We've all done it, all right? We've all done it. Ain't nobody took a shot at a broadside Yamato at point blank, supposedly destroyed his turrets, and did take 20,000 damage straight through the bow because that destroyed turret still exists and still blasts you, and you leave him with just enough for somebody else to kill, and not gone, really? Really, this is what we're doing? I play everything perfectly, I do everything right, and I still get screwed over in the instance, right? But I digress. We've all been there. We've all said it. But now imagine that times 100,000, 150,000. I don't know what the size of the player base is. I'm going to estimate probably 100 to 150,000 between the two consoles and mobile. I really don't think there's that big of an audience for World of Warships Legends. I don't believe there is. I think it's probably 150,000 between all three versions of World of Warships Legends coming together on the servers. And that's total. So maybe I'm wrong. Somebody will have to let me know. But overall, I think that the last thing I wanted to mention was that some people out there just do not ever want to hear you say anything negative at all about a game or anything, okay? And they take everything that you say as being the most toxic, or they just immediately write everything you say off as being toxic. You're just terrible for the community. How dare you? You should just stop streaming this game because you're just an awful person. And to that, I say, go f yourself. But no, for real. That is the viewpoint of some of the peoples that commented on my video. And I understand where they're coming from, but you also got to understand from a perspective of nothing that I said in that video was toxic. Nothing. It was simple, constructive criticism. It's, hey, this is a problem that I have identified in the game that I think we can actually work on as a community and make the game better. That is the basis of constructive criticism. You know what's not constructive criticism? When you comment on a YouTube video and go, you're just toxic, you're just a terrible human being, you should just stop living and breathing, and that's not constructive criticism. That's just being a douche. So who's being toxic? Is it the person who's offering constructive criticism based on what they think is actually a problem in the game? Or is it the person typing the comment saying, you're just a terrible human being, and you're just so toxic, you don't like the game, you should just stop playing it, blah, blah. I wouldn't be here 5 years into the game if I didn't enjoy it. Just saying. But I'm always looking to try to help add a little bit of extra to the game that I think we can all enjoy and hopefully make this game stick around for another 5 to 10 years. Because I have a vested interest in this game, believe it or not. It is the one place where I make most of my money, so if there's any one person out there that you can always count on to try to, like, at least help the game go forward, it's this one right here. But anyway, I hope that this has helped clear up some of the things that maybe I didn't say correctly in the first video. Also, talking about the other two videos and some of the problems that you guys mentioned in the comments of that video. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are in agreement or disagreement, I'm still interested. You guys know I love reading your guys' comments. Ain't nobody reads as many comments and responds to as many comments as I do. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.